Today we're covering material in preparation for section 4.3. We'll be covering long division and the division algorithm. So we will be looking at things like 47 divided by 3, or more complicated things like 412 divided by 18. And of course we all have calculators that can do these types of things, but we want to get used to the process of long division because we have to do it by hand for polynomials in section 4.3. So let's practice this process, identify the different components that we'll talk about in the next section of the examples, and as always, reach out if you have any questions. So when I say long division, I'm talking about the strategy where you take 47 and you draw it under a hat and you put the divisor 3 on the outside. 3 is the divisor and 47 is what we call the dividend. So we're going to see if we can solve this and figure out how many times 3 goes into 47 and what our remainder will be. So we always ask ourselves, well, how many times does 3 go into my first position, 4? Well, 3 goes into 4 one time. And so I write that right above the 4. Now I do 1 times 3, and I write it down right below the 4. We're ignoring the 7 so far. Now I'm going to do a little subtraction here and look at 4 minus 3. Again, we're ignoring the 7 so far. But 4 minus 3 is 1. Now I drop the 7 and it comes down right here. So now I think, how many times does 3 go into 17? 3 goes into 17 5 times. And I write the 5 above the 7. 3 goes into 17 5 times because I know 3 times 5 is 15, and 15 is as close as I can get to 17. So I write down 3 times 5, which is 15, and I do my subtraction problem again. 17 minus 15 is 2. But now I have a number that is less than my divisor 3, and so I know that's my remainder, which I often write at the top as R2. We'll focus on writing down each of the different components in the next example. But that's it for doing long division so far. Moving on to part B, let's see what happens when we have more digits to deal with. So we're looking at 412 divided by 18. That's 412 under the house and 18 on the left. Now, instead of thinking about how many times does 18 go into 4, because obviously 18 doesn't go into 4, it's bigger than 4, we think, how many times does 18 go into 41? Well, 18 times 2 is 36, so that's pretty close to 41. So let's start there. I put the 2 at the top, and I do 2 times 18, 36. And I do a subtraction problem, again ignoring the 2 on the right-hand side for now. 41 minus 36 is 5. Now we drop down our next placeholder and look at the 2. We think about, well, how many times can 18 go into 52? Well, 18 times 2 is 36, and 18 times 3 is 54. 54 pushes us over the 52 we're looking for. We can't have that. So we think about 18 times 2 being 36 is the closest we can get to 52. So we write another 2 down above the 2 in the 412. And we do 2 times 18, which is 36. And we take their difference. Now 52 minus 36 is 16. You can always use your calculator there, on the side to help with these kinds of things. Now 16 is less than 18, so that means we're done. That's our remainder. We write our 16 to the side there. Now let's see how to properly think about these problems and write down all the different components. See, we had 47 divided by 3. We got 15, remainder 2. And I want you to notice something before we get into those terms, that if I actually took 3 and multiplied it back with 15, and then I added 2, I would get back my 47. So you can always check your answers by going back and multiplying what is to the left of the house and on top of the house and adding your remainder back. It's a great way to check your answer. Now, what we call each component, well, the big number that goes under the house, we call the dividend. That's the thing actually being divided. The divisor is the one actually doing the work. So if I were to write these down with that problem, 47 would be our dividend, 3 is our divisor. Our quotient is what's on top of the house, so that's 15. And our remainder is what's left over, so that was 2 in that example above. So let's do it one more time and then identify the dividend, divisor, quotient, and remainder. This time we have 847 divided by 15. 847, 15. And we think, how many times does 15 go into 84? Well, let's think about multiples of 15. 15 times 4 gets us to 60. 15 times 5 gets us to 75. 15 times 6 pushes us over at 90. That's too high. So 15 times 5 is the best we can do. I put a 5 at the top there. And 15 times 5 is 75. That was the closest we could get to 84. Now we take their difference, and I have 9 and 7. Now we think, how many times is 15? Oh, don't forget, we dropped the 7 there. 84 minus 75 gave us the 9, but we dropped the 7 to get 97. Now we think, how many times does 15 go into 97? Well, 15 times 6 gives us 90. So let's start there. 6 goes above the 7 in our little house. And we write 6 times 15 is 90. And we take the difference was 97. Now we have 7 left over. So this is where we would write our 7. Since 7 is less than our divisor 15, we know we're done. So that means that our dividend is 847, the number under the house. The divisor is the one doing the work, the 15 in this example. The quotient is the number that we got on top of the house. That was 56. And the remainder was 7. And now if we do 15 times 56 plus 7, we do in fact get 847. Let me write that down. 15 times 56 plus 7 does in fact give us 847. And that's it. So give it some practice. Look at all these different practice problems. We go all the way through them, all kinds of different numbers of digits and combinations. So try writing down dividend, divisor, quotient, remainder for all of those problems and check the answer key. And really go through the process. It will help you in covering the material for 4.3. Let me know if you have any questions.